Let's talk about my thesis that the Democratic Party is in more trouble than is commonly thought. If you go back to the last 10 years, which is when Donald Trump has been ascendant and the dominant figure in our politics, and you said, what are the five moments that the Democrats cast their own fate in a negative way? Obviously, in the top five, despite what Hunter Biden would say, was his dad seeking re-election, I would say,
Yeah.
and the choice of the party elites to let Kamala Harris have the nomination. I'd say those would be two of the top five. What would you put on the list for the other three of moments where the Democrats made a critical choice that have left them where they are today, kind of struggling?
Yeah, I think there's two other issues. Number one, I think, is immigration. They didn't care what the data said. They didn't care what the American people were saying. They were obviously lost in that while they were having wide open borders and sending people down there with forklifts to lift up razor wire to let more people come in illegally. They completely missed that, or they just didn't care what the American people said. And they said, we can just dictate and they're going to deal with it because this is our policy. We want to fundamentally change the country. I think that one was huge. I also think there's another moment that was happening, and that is the civil war within the Democratic Party of who's leading it. When you had the radicals, the AOCs, the Ilhan Omars coming up, and you saw this turn into like, hey, we're going to run socialists and communists, like we're seeing in New York City, and not reining that in, saying this is not where we want the Democratic Party to go, but embracing it because you wanted to bring in, I think, young voters or new voters. And they were like, we're willing to roll the dice and kind of just expand into the socialist, Marxist, communist world. That is backfiring, I think, right now in a very big way. And so when you look at the Democratic Party right now, I think it's not just a civil war. I don't think the Democratic Party knows who they are. And so if you talk to someone that's probably 35 or younger, they believe that the Democratic Party is communist or socialist. They believe in AOCs. They believe in this candidate out in New York City. That's where they see the party. The traditional guard, if you're 35 or older in the Democratic Party, you're going, hold on, we can't win nationwide with this. This isn't working for us. And so you created this AOC world. You embraced it. And now what do? How do you get rid of it? How do you bring everybody back in line? I'm not sure you can get that back in the bottle. And that's the reason why I think you see, even when there are, quote, stumbles and opportunities for Democrats to move forward that they see and they try to play into them, it doesn't seem to matter because someone gets them off message so quick that they can't capitalize on it. And that's why I think they are in serious trouble right now.
Totally agree with all that. And here's what I'd add as my fifth, and this is kind of a catch-all, which is the lack of authenticity. People often describe that as, can you go on a podcast and act like a normal person? But to me, if I think about big issues, COVID, trans athletes in women and girls sports,
no doubt,
Israel, okay? I can't tell you what the Democratic Party stands for. Now, the Republican Party is, it contains multitudes. There's not a unified position, but I can tell you what Trump's position is, and I can tell you what the dominant position is. And it's not just a matter of what are they saying. I genuinely don't know where the Democratic Party is on COVID. And then, of course, on Biden's mental acuity.
Well,
where are they on lockdowns? Where are they on the vaccine? I just don't know.
Yeah.
Masks? I don't know.
Yeah, and that is the problem. If I was a Democratic strategist right now and I was in a room with the Democratic Party, I would still be asking the question every 30 minutes, probably, Mark, like, who is my master? Like, is it David Hogue, that, whatever that guy's name is at the DNC? Or is it still the Barack Obama, Hillary Clinton faction of the party, the Nancy Pelosi? Can you imagine being a Democratic strategist right now, sitting in that room trying to figure out what are we going to run on? What are the issues for us in the midterms coming up? No one can give you a straight answer. And that is when you're lost as a party. But you go back to what you just mentioned on COVID, lockdowns. I mean, what we do know is the Democratic Party is against law and order. We know that they're against the police still. We know that they're against ICE agents. We know that they're in favor of open borders. All of that doesn't poll well right now. Then you're in favor of guys that are saying we want to take away property. We want to move out rich people and the rich are evil and we want to fundamentally change New York City. I don't think that's going to poll well either. And so that's why I sit back and I'm like, disarray might be an understatement. I have never seen the Democratic Party this broken, and I'm not sure there's any one person that can put it back together. There used to always be a leader, right? There was a Barack Obama or a Bill Clinton that could kind of bring them back together and solidify and say, hey, this is how we win. But there does seem to be a legitimate element of the Democratic movement that is like, burn it down if we don't get what we want. And if you're dealing with anarchists, which, by the way, you created a lot of anarchists, these days of rage and stand up to Donald Trump and the summer of love and no real rioting and looting all over the country with BLM. Like you're funding it, you've created it, and now they've kind of turned on your own party. I don't know if you can fix this anytime soon, because you and I, if we had to list the top 5 leaders in the Democratic Party, I couldn't give you a list that is like solid. It's a pure guess on the day and also on the issue. Like, who's in charge of the Democratic Party? I don't know. I don't know if it's Jeffries.
Yep. The only thing I'd say in annotation of what you said is it is true that they're loud and outspoken people who criticize ICE and who criticize the police. I don't think that's the dominant position of the party, but what I see is paralysis on the point of responsible voices in the party who might occasionally, when pressed 3 times on a Sunday show, say, that's not the way I'd say it, rather than a denunciation and an effort to figure out how to get that out of the party. Republicans have that on their side as well, but they also have the biggest megaphone in the world by the most masterful user of the megaphone, who can take conflicting positions, but eventually when he calls student body right, the party does student body right for the most part. The Democrats don't have that.